Okay guys, Elliot here. So today we have a Mikuni carburetor. It's a 22 millimeter unit. This is off of a Japanese Pitbike, 110, 125. It comes on a lot of those units. Pretty much they're all the same. We took this off today because it basically would only run when the choke was on. Even after it got real hot, you turn the choke off, it starts to die out. Now, generally that means the pilot jet is plugged. The pilot jet is responsible for just off idle. So when this is plugged, it can't get any mixture with idle, but if you were to put the choke on, it would pull more fuel through and have more suction on the fuel. It runs great until you get going and it gets warm, and then it starts to fall out. You lose a lot of power. Sometimes they don't run at all. This one does run. So we're going to go in here and we're going to try to see if there's some junk in the carburetor and clean the pilot jet. So this carburetor is pretty simple. There's only a few things that you can adjust here. The first one is this screw right here. This is your idle airspeed, or kind of your idle control. And basically, if you can see inside of here, get a flashlight maybe. Let me see from this side. Yeah, you can kind of see it right there. There's a little nub right there. You can see when I move my hand away. Put the white up behind it. See the nub sticking out of there? The farther you push this screw in, the nub goes in. And there's a slider that goes down in here and it will stop right on that nub. So the farther you go it in, if this nub isn't in there at all, it closes all the way. So if you screw it in, the throttle valve will go up and up and up and up and up and up, and basically you're going to idle faster and faster. So this has already been set, so I'm not going to mess with this. But again, that's your idle airspeed. So the other jets are inside the bowl here. Well, we have one mixture screw, and then right there on this carburetor here. You can adjust this, and this will adjust the needle, and it'll do more of your mid-range fuel adjustment. But that too is set, so we're going to leave that. So there's 4 bolts here on the carburetor. Kind of got a random amount of bolts on this carb. Somewhere I placed them. Not sure. When I picked this pit bike up, the funny thing is, I got it from a bunch of high schoolers. Nothing wrong with that. But they really molested this bike. They had the case apart. They had a whole bunch of stuff put in incorrectly. 4 different bolts to hold this carburetor bowl on. I've been in here once before, and it was completely plugged up. And they just did not put things back together correctly. Now we got the bike running, but it didn't have a fuel filter on it. And immediately once I put a fuel filter on, I started seeing black hunks of plastic being caught by the fuel filter. So I'm pretty sure we got a little bit of plastic in the pilot jet, because it did work on with the choke off for a while. So let me try this out here. Take one more Phillips. I really hate these carburetors when they put these cheap Chinese Phillips screws in there. You gotta put a lot of pressure on them to get them loose without stripping. Okay, bowl just comes off. So I'm looking in here. There's a little bit of gunk down in there. Nothing too bad. The gasket here on this case is just an O-ring, but you'll find that these get flat over time. This one doesn't appear to be leaking, but a lot of cheaper carburetors or older motorcycles you get in there, same style carbs basically. It could be cardboard. If you don't have one, just cut a Cheerios box apart. The lamination on the back side makes for a great gasket. Done it 100 times, no worries about that. Set this down. Okay, so we're back now. So basically, this is the float, and it's going to move up and down. This little needle right there, you can kind of see it right there, right there. So what that does is when the fuel level comes up, it plugs the hole and basically stops the fuel level from rising higher in the carburetor. So we don't need to take this out, but so we have our main. This is our pilot jet. Oh, sorry, this is our main jet here. This will control your full throttle, wide open throttle, fuel, along with the needle position or the diameter of the needle. But generally, If you're running lean at wide open throttle, make that bigger. You know, if it's too rich, wide open throttle, make that smaller or drop your pin down. This is the coarse adjustment. Pin's the fine adjustment. But the pin has a taper to it, so it's kind of a linear. It'll, instead of being just fat all the time, you can kind of make, if it come in the mid range, maybe you can adjust the fueling. But that's the first thing you change. Okay, and then so we got pilot jet right here. This is the smaller one. I got a pretty small screwdriver here, and see how it just barely meets up. I'm gonna try this, but if it starts to strip, I'm gonna stop and go find a much bigger screwdriver, and I'll put some pressure on this. Oh, it came. Okay, because these are brass. They're very easy to strip out. Okay. Okay, that's your pilot jet. That's your pilot jet. See the holes in there? So there's a lot of little holes, and they can get plugged up fairly easy. The biggest thing is we're not gonna be able to see it in the camera, but shine this at the sunlight, at the sun. You should be able to see the light through there. If not, it's plugged. We'll see here. Be right back. Yeah, mine's pretty much completely plugged. I'm gonna go get a piece of wire, and we're gonna check it out. Okay. So we know the pilot jet's plugged anyways. Let's put this here. Okay. So here we have our pilot jet. So we know that this is plugged. You can see through it this way. But when I was pointing at it, or going through it this way here, really can't see anything through there. Just gonna get a light. A little bit of light, you can see that. Let's clean it out and let's see how much light we can get. So another trick here, I know some old school guys are gonna kill you for this. They say don't use wire. I have a piece of single strand wire. You can get this stuff at Radio Shack. It's not stranded, it's just one strand. The thing is, with a carburetor like this, the holes are very small, so this may be too big. But we're gonna give it a try. Generally, the fluid comes in this way, the gasoline. So I'm gonna try to poke it out the other way. I might need to strip off a little bit more. Ultrasonic cleaners tend to work really well. Carb cleaner, you got a little spray right here. The thing is though, if it's white and crusty and been there a long time, it's not going to touch it. Or if it's a piece of plastic like I think mine is. And I can tell my hole is too small for this piece of wire here. Let's see here. Yep, definitely too small. So we're going to have to go back to the carb cleaner. Okay. We're going to squirt it. I'm going to plug the holes on the side best I can. Hopefully it doesn't mess with my GoPro. Okay, so we shot that out backwards. It's going to be hard to tell right now. I'm going to blow some air through it. I don't have an air compressor, so I'm just going to use my lips. But I'm going to make sure this is dry first because it does burn your skin. Okay, let's see what we can find. Wow, see that? That hole was a lot bigger, right? Let's try that. Yeah, you see that? It's quite a bit bigger than it was before. That's what we're looking for. Okay, just for good measures, I'm going to shoot it one more time, but it really only takes, maybe it was a small little gunk right there. This little black speck I found on the table. Could be anything. Again. So we've cleaned the pilot jet twice. Good to go there. So what other jets do we have in this carburetor? So we have our main jet here. Make sure you use a very large screwdriver. I'll pull it out here quick. You may want to put a wrench onto the hex here to hold it, otherwise the whole thing might spin out. I know this one's clean, so you can clearly see through it. Let's see if I can put some light. See that? It's a very big hole compared to the pilot jet, right? You're in here, you might as well just grab some slippery, little squirt, you're good to go. That's fine. That's usually not the one that gets plugged. It's always the pilot jet, especially on 4-cylinder motorcycles. They have just minuscule ports, even smaller than these guys. So we know that one's fine. Again, fuel mixture screw, it comes out, and you're gonna see a hole right in the base. You can barely see it. See if I can hold this at the same time. Right there. So if we were to take this out, yeah, you see the hole right in the bottom. So if you would take that out, you could squirt that hole just fine and it'll run. So you can back this out, but if you back this out, count your turns. Go all the way in, bottom it out, and count half turn, 1 half, 2 half. So I'm gonna go in, one half, one half. Okay, it's a little over 1.5 from all the way bottomed out. So a little bit, 1 half, 1. Okay. Okay. So I did finally go grab a screwdriver quick, but here it is. And you see it's got taper seat on it. Let this autofocus here. There you go. So the more you screw that in, the leaner it's going to become. Or it might be richer. Yeah, it's going to slow the air down, so it's going to make it richer. So again, it plugs that hole. And if you go inside of here, there's a spring. Right in there. So you can get the spring out. Okay. Just a little guy. And it looks like a little bit of crud down in there. It's hard to tell, but I'm going to shoot it quick. And so remember there's that little hole there? See it coming out? Perfect. Okay. Put the spring. Put the spring back in. And it came out with me. And because this thing here is such a pain on this carburetor, either there's some gunk in the threads or something. I'm just gonna get a little bit of lube here. Just a little bit of black moly lube from some rod bolts I got laying around. Not a lot, just something. Okay, we're gonna put this in. Remember, it's turn and a half, a little bit more. And the problem with these pit bikes, you can't adjust this from on the bike. You got to constantly pull that stupid carb off. There's just no room to get in here. God, this thing is screwing way easier now. I cleaned it out, and that little bit of lube. So I wonder if maybe we did clean the threads a bit. So much nicer right now. Okay, we're bottomed out. So see the position? So I'm gonna do a half turn. Half. 1. Half, and then just a tiny bit. There we go. Should be back close enough to where we were. We can always adjust it later. Okay, so if this carburetor was overflowing, it's on the car, on the bike anyways, or the motorcycle, in its normal position, and the bowl was on, and fuel's coming out of here, it's probably the float sticking. You just take the pin out right there, you just knock it out, and this comes down, you take the needle and seat, little rubber plunger, make sure it's clean. A little bit of debris in there could make the carb overflow. But pretty rare. You usually see that on cars. But yeah, that's pretty much it. These things are super simple. If you had to clean this out, it's not a port. It's a spring in there. It just stops the slide. So don't worry about that. But again, you just count all the way in, all the way out. Get yourself a good starting point. Okay, so we're gonna put this back together. We gotta put the pilot jet back in. And make sure you don't cross-thread these things. Okay. And it's just wrist tight, snug. You don't want to be He-Man with this stuff. It's just brass. Okay, that's it. Cool. Let's find the Carb Bowl. We did notice there was probably a little bit of gunk in there, so I'm gonna spray this out quick. I always have a toothbrush around. I'll let this sit here. Down in that hole. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna dump this out. I want to take this valve out here. This is just to drain the bowl. But it slowly leaks on this carburetor. Okay. Mint. So you can see here, it's got a little taper face. Perfect. And it is cruddy. Let's see if I can get this to autofocus. Doesn't want to focus. But you can see the tip, it's all beat up there. So we are gonna just spray this down. A little bit of light 2000 grit sandpaper work real great for this too. But generally, the carb cleaner in the spray can does such a good job of just dissolving any form of gasoline powder. I do have a bucket of carb cleaner. That. Don't use this. It sucks. It'll leave a sticky residue. It kind of blows. You can put a whole Holley main body in there or metering block, kind of let it sit, but you know what, it sucks. It's not real hot, so I wouldn't use it. Don't recommend. Just a little bit of sandpaper here because that toothbrush wasn't quite getting all of it off. So I think this here is pretty high grit. Yeah, it's 220. It's pretty soft. You don't want to leave any gouges in there, but perfect. You see it's clear. I'm going to shoot some cleaner down there too, because if the seat in there is dirty, it's going to give you the same problem. It's going to leak. Okay. Can use a little bit of some wire maybe. Just scrape in there. Not seeing anything else coming loose, so I think we're good to go. Got the clean needle. Cedar gasket on here. This one's definitely a lot nicer than the old gasket. It's not so beat up and flat, jammed in there, so that's good. Sometimes this doesn't want to stay in place. The easiest thing is just to get a little grease and throw it on there. You don't need to glue them on. It'll just make your life harder. Okay, and we're gonna line it up. So the bump here has to make room for our adjustment jet, fuel jet. Okay, nice and straight. Everything stayed in. The bolt holes for the carburetor look lined up, and you can see right through these guys. Okay. Let's get this on here. Okay, snug. Good to go. Okay. All clean. The outside is going to be dirty. It's a motorcycle carb, pit bike carb. But if we look, this was just supposed to be clean. But you can see from my paper towel, not so clean. Between the carburetor, little bits from the outside, definitely some from the inside too, because this thing was not running right. But all it takes is a speck. Cool. So let's go put this on the carb, and we'll be good to go. Actually, I want to talk about one more thing here. The choke circuit. This is the exact reason why this wasn't working right. So you can see in here, when I move this up and down, it's this hole right in there. So right there, that's off, or it's on. It's gonna force more draw through the carb. Put it up, now it's open. Air can go through there. Put that down, choke's on. It's gonna suck more fuel. It's not gonna run right. Okay, we're back at the bike now. So, first thing we're gonna do here, we've got the carb, we got our gasket. It's pretty simple, but we're just gonna hook this back up. Thing leaks a little bit of gas, but I don't know if you can kind of tell, but here's my fuel filter. Well, let's get it closer. It's a hunk of black plastic. Right there, see that plastic? That's what's going through this carburetor. That's why you need a fuel filter. Anything like that, just play havoc with this carburetor. So, you gotta put the needle in. Make sure you line the slot up with the hole. You'll know it when it goes in. Perfect. Screw that down. Just snug. Nothing major. Perfect. Okay. Put this on. Okay. Here's my wrench. Sweet. Best tool ever. Milwaukee Sidewinder. Pit bikes are just one thing I do here. Do a lot of muscle cars and constant wrenching. So this thing can save a lot of time. Get this guy started. Perfect. There it goes. Make sure all that's snug. Here we go. Air filter back on. There it goes. She's on there. Sweet.